morning, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of our Tuesday webinar series with KPMG. Massive thanks to KPMG as always for your support of this great series and for your collaboration. Okay, so this coronavirus pandemic has devastated global economies. I think we were all very keen to get back to business as usual, hopefully fairly quickly. But I think we've seen the recent spike in new infections globally, decisions to reverse openings of some states in the US, significant spikes in local infection rates. We've seen Nelson Mandela Bay, which is Port Elizabeth and surrounds, requesting or advising government to take it back to a level 4 lockdown. And we really see the virus taking hold in Gauteng now. So I think all of this really indicates that we are very far from an end to this crisis. We're certainly not out of the woods by a long shot, and this is going to be with us for quite a long time. Sustainability has obviously been quite a topical discussion point as business seeks ways to not only navigate this current crisis, but actually drive greater future resilience. Most have rightfully turned to technology and innovation as key drivers of future success. And you know, it's known. It's 4IR is literally smacked us in the face much quicker than we expected, but I think many of us are prepared for it. There are a lot of technologies out there that can assist during a time like this. And the right technology implemented properly, appropriately managed and monitored, can lead to significant gains, not only in growth and efficiency, but also for improved resistance to future systemic shocks, such as the current pandemic, and future large-scale disruptions, you know, including environmental, financial, and social. And those disruptions are fairly certain that they will happen. We just never know when. So technology certainly allows you to be a lot more resilient in that space. And as business embraces the use of all these different technologies across the operations, and then of course with an associated heightened focus on governance and risk currently, internal audit functions are going to come under increasing pressure to also change. And just as technology can help an organization provide more efficient, responsive, and cost-effective products, it can also be used to similarly increase the quality of internal audit function. So that's what today's webinar is all about. So in today's webinar, we'll be taking a closer look at technology-enabled internal audit, and looking at questions like, where is internal audit going? Looking at some examples of foundational and advanced capabilities for leveraging the technology, taking a closer look at data and analytics in internal audit. And then, of course, you know, my favorite, live demos. You try to avoid these, but, you know, we love living on the edge and we love taking a bit of a risk. So we have 2 live demos for you today. One using bots in internal audit, and then a live demo of an end-to-end delivery platform called Keystone, developed at KPMG. So I'm looking forward to that. And then lastly, just ending out with a COVID-19 return to work assessment based on the current regulations. As always, we'd like this to be as interactive as possible. Please do use the chat box and the Q&A. I'll be monitoring those throughout. So feel free during presentations to just pop off some questions as they arise, and we'll deal with that at the end of the session. The session is recorded, available on YouTube and our social media. So feel free to go in afterwards and have a look and remind yourself of what's been said in the presentations. And as always, please share your thoughts, questions, etc., and we'll direct those to the right people after the fact. Okay, so we've got a fantastic team today, full house today, quite a big team, but really expert at what they do. So I'm really looking forward to that. In the interest of time, I'll only be introducing Granville Smith today. Granville is going to lead the discussion, and I think many of you will remember Granville from our previous episode. Granville has 29 years of internal audit experience spanning numerous industries, including financial services, retail, consumer markets, higher education, and the public sector. And he currently leads the KPMG advisory team and serves as a member of the KPMG advisory executive leadership team. Joining Granville today will be Gustav van Brugh, Avin Mahado, and Jacob Hoon. Good morning, Granville. Welcome, and over to you.
Good morning, Ryan, and morning, everybody. Ryan, I never walk alone, and with that as a hint, let me introduce my fellow panelists this morning. I'm going to start with Gustav von Braat. Gustav is an admitted advocate of the High Court. He's Associate Director at KPMG, approximately 25 years of experience, and he's leading and heading our regulatory compliance function. Then next, we have Jaco Wynn. Jaco has about 19 years of internal audit experience. He's Associate Director at KPMG. Jaco will demonstrate later our KPMG Keystone platform, and he's actually been instrumental in developing and designing the system for KPMG globally. So we're very proud about Jaco taking the lead on the development of the KPMG Keystone platform, which he will demonstrate later. Then we have Aveen Mahadu. Aveen is also an Associate Director in our Data Analytics and Tech-Enabled Internal Audit unit. Aveen has about 15 years of work experience. He has a passion for technology. And we're going to hand over then to Aveen to kickstart off our presentation this morning. Thank you. Over to you, Aveen.
Thank you, Granville, and good morning, everyone. I'm just going to be sharing my screen for a second, and then we'll get straight into our presentation. And as Granville mentioned, and as Ryan mentioned, today we're going to be covering technology-enabled internal audit. We'll talk a little bit about where is internal audit going. We'll talk to you about what is technology-enabled internal audit, and then we'll showcase 3 of the many technology-enabled internal audit solutions that we have in use at KPMG, and then we'll wrap our presentation. Okay, so as I mentioned, we'll cover where is internal audit going. Let me maybe talk you through to what's actually happening in internal audit and what is happening as we speak. So there's rapid technology change, shiftings, regulations, talent shortages, emerging risks, unprecedented changes in business models. And as you can imagine, businesses are being disrupted from many fronts, and the effects are permeating to internal audit functions. This new era demands new thinking, new skills, new capabilities, and even new delivery models. The opportunity for internal audits to hone their capabilities to help companies respond to risks is ever increasing, and examples of these focus areas and the new focus areas within internal audit are shown below. So there's a need for a new target operating model. The way we operate, given COVID, we actually audit from sitting in our homes. New reporting, so new types of dynamic reporting. The way we reported in the past will no longer be valid. The talent we use in our departments or the talent we use in our functions is going to change, and it's changing already. We are seeing that as much as for many years we've employed chartered accountants, certified internal auditors, the skills we now have within internal audit departments range from programmers, data analysts, data scientists, data modelers. And as we progress and start using technology, the need for new talent will arise. There's new strategic focus, big drive to look at using technology in our workplace, big drive to start transforming the internal audit practice to start looking at cyber risk, cyber internal audit services, cyber capability is becoming increasingly important. And given where we are, then we will move certainly to using more cyber capability. A move from combined assurance to integrated assurance, so connecting the lines of defense. We're seeing enhancing quality assurance. A big part of what we do is to enhance quality assurance, and using technology will help us get there. Using tech in everything we do, cultivating technology capabilities across the internal audit lifecycle. And last but not least, agile auditing. It's a new way to audit, a new way to start auditing, a quicker way to get to results, and a quicker way to get to answers. Moving along, so what is actually technology-enabled internal audit? And the simplest way to explain it is technology-enabled internal audit is leveraging the power of technology to deliver internal audits. As businesses embrace the use of technology across the operation, internal audit functions will come across increasing pressure to also change. Just as technology can help an organization provide more efficient, responsive, and cost-effective products and services, it can be used to increase quality, efficiency, and the overall effectiveness of the function. On the screen, you will see examples of foundational and advanced capabilities leveraging technology that we currently use. So data analytics, using analytics as part of our audit, moving to enhancing the use of controlled self-assessment through technology. It allows us, or at least it enables the first line of defense to assess compliance against a control framework to manage risks and objectives. We see a move to more deep process mining, a better looking at an organization, using tools to actually understand processes better through the use of data, enhanced action tracking so that we avoid repeat findings. The new one which has come on board, which we'll talk to shortly, is around intelligent automation. So digitizing of labor is augmenting and replacing operational activities that we use. And finally, a move to the most advanced capabilities, which include point solutions. So risk rollers, data scrapers, chatbots, video analytics, text analytics. And this is where audit is actually going. And this is what the future of internal audit actually looks like, and the future of technology-enabled internal audit. For all of these, this is underpinned by a workflow platform, a real-time environment that has all of this capability and all of this tech, all in one place for auditors to actually log on, use a piece of technology, automatically integrating into working papers, and then delivering our results. As mentioned by Ryan, I'll also look quickly talk a little bit to the use of data analytics. And as you may know, the use of data analytics on internal audit is not new, but we are seeing now that organizations now more than ever have a strong desire to effectively leverage data analytics. We find by using analytics, we are able to get to results quicker. We take our hours out of our audit, deliver better results, drive efficiency, and allow for better way of doing things. On the screen, you will see is the way we approach data analytics at KPMG. So we move from a traditional top-down approach to a more process where we derive insights, we integrate our results, and we get to what we refer to as data and analytics enabled internal audit, which ultimately integrates the use of DNA into internal audit. We use analytics as either ad hoc, frequent, or continuous. Some information as to what value data analytics adds, but ultimately it results in increasing efficiencies. In the case of KPMG, our integrated approach is people-oriented, process-driven, and technology-enabled. Some of the tools we actually use, or some of the tools we see in the market, we have tools around robotic process automation. That's where we will eventually get to in terms of using tech and internal audit. Many common ones you will see there. Big analytics solutions. So depending on what you'd like to do, whether it's frequent, ad hoc, or continuous, we use tools around IDEA, SQL. R is becoming a common language that we're starting to use for predictive. Big drives around using SAS and Python. For visualization, because ultimately, as much as you can run analytics and you can do cool tests, the clients actually pay for the report. And ultimately, visualization is something we focus on. Big drive in the market we also see is around using Tableau and Microsoft Power BI. As we move to the quantum of advanced capability, a lot of work is being done and a lot of capability around artificial intelligence. Big data, not new to the fold, but some big data products that are out there. And we're also seeing there is now more of a use around open source technologies, so the likes of Spark and GeoKettle, as opposed to Hadoops. We see big data being used as part of internal audit. And then ultimately, which Yaku will talk to a little bit later, is a workflow solution. Now we're finding that for us to be cutting edge and next generation internal auditors, we need a platform. There are a number out there, and the one we will talk to a little bit later is around KPMG Keystone. Moving along, and we can get to our first demo now. We have developed the KPMG Intelligent Platform for Automation. Our App Store, as it's most commonly known, it houses all our digital assets, bots, apps, and intelligent solutions. The purpose of that platform was to enable our workforce with targeted driven capability to accelerate our development or to accelerate our delivery. So in a nutshell, all the App Store is, and I'll talk to it more as the demo runs, it's actually a store for auditors where we house all our capability and all our tech. And this is the Intelligent Platform for Automation, or store. You will notice in the store, there's a number of assets. We have assets for almost every single ERP system, depending on what you intend to do with the store, depending on what type of audit you intend to run, you can actually see that. I'll just show you quickly what all the assets look like from an inventory perspective. And you'll see there's digital assets or bots around SOC reporting, SOX audits, the internal one, which I'm going to talk to now. We've designed it for financial statement audits, general IT controls, etc., etc. And this app store that we've built is an evolving platform. As we speak, we are building a number of bots. Each time we run through a series of development, it goes through a process where we check the audits, and our users literally log onto this and run an audit. For demo purposes today, what I'm going to show you is I'm going to run a typical 5-day audit in a matter of minutes. I'm going to look at what a client system has in terms of how it's configured from a password perspective. I'm going to upload a series of data, click a button, and an audit will actually run. The output being a working paper that you can then use, or that our auditors use in the field to follow up with management and actually go and report. So just give me a moment. We'll just open the South Africa workspace. I'm going to run a set password testing bot. And all what's required from this bot perspective for auditors in the field, they literally go and configure the bot. So they actually go and look at what happens in the organization. They look at the current policy around passwords, and they input all the relevant information around this actual client. For this purposes, I've actually done some pre-population. I've inputted exactly what the client process says or what the client policy says around SAP password testing. I've put in all the minimum requirements around special characters, password expiry, minimum uppercase, lowercase, etc. I then move to next. I'm quickly just going to get some client data from that we typically would get from our client. What happens in the background of the engine, the system actually validates the data. It checks the data, and if all the data meets the requirements for this bot, it marks it as completed. And then I'm literally going to click run the asset. Okay, so for all our bots, this is what typically happens. First step is the data gets validated. Our engine looks to see if there's any information that is missing. It then runs through a series of parameters. It takes a few minutes because it's actually moving the data now into the cloud. Once it's validated the data and once it's queued the data, we'll actually start processing. In the interest of time, because we are limited by the amount of time we can present, I will talk you through and I'll actually show you what the output looks shortly. But just the reason and why we actually built this bot store, and just some information around why we are using bots in internal audit. So the first benefit was around quality. We looked for a way to have reliable and repeatable. Our bots reduce human error by automating manually intensive and error-prone tasks. We looked at efficiency, so with our bots executing manually intensive tasks, delivery teams can actually spend more time actually processing strategic business problems. And then we looked for something that was scalable, and our bots can be rapidly deployed. And the idea is to allow every user on the ground the ability to run a series of audits by literally clicking buttons, as opposed to actually going and getting the data, cleaning the data, uploading the data, building working papers out each time. The idea behind the bot is literally runs an entire audit for you, and all that is left is to follow up and go and report. So the bot usually takes around 3 to 4 minutes to run. As mentioned, in terms of some of the benefits, the idea was also to take hours out of the audit. This is not a service that we run. We actually use this as part of our delivery at KPMG. And for all audits that we intend on running in the future, and the ones we're currently running now, we actually use these bots in as part of our analytics capability. So I'm just going to pause there for a second and give this some time. But I think what might be best in the interest of time is to actually show you what the output looks like. So I'm literally just going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm just going to show you the output, and I'll even show you that the bot is actually run. But once the bot is done, what typically happens is our user is given this. So user gets a working paper. So the working paper ideally is a lead sheet. It talks about the procedures that the bot actually has run. And really the power of the bot lies here, where what it's done, it's actually taken the entire test, it's mapped the parameters that I mapped earlier, and it produces in front of you a series of exceptions. And you'll see here, for all of these tests, so this is what the entity's policy was, this is what the data is telling us, and now our auditors literally need to go and follow up all of those exceptions. And that's ultimately how we are using bots at KPMG, and how we are using bots as part of internal audit. Again, the idea is this for our professionals to use as part of their delivery. Okay, once again, I'll just show you that the bot is actually run. So you can see that the bot does run in the background. Okay, and you'll see the bot is now complete. Okay, and that's a little zip file there. I'm just downloading it to show you. I did one upfront one just to show everybody what it looks like, because the bot sometimes does take a little bit longer to run. Okay, and in the file, can we just wait for the file to open? There's our set password test there. I'll just close the original one that I was using, and I'll show you that the bots actually run so that you can see what the output looks like. Okay, and again, here's the output, a little bit of what I showed you earlier, the same test summary. Okay, so as you can see, I'm very excited about data analytics, KPMG Intelligent Platform for automation, and the possibilities they represent. But let me pause here, and I'll now hand over to Jaco to take you through Keystone.
Thank you, Aveen. I think it's quite exciting to see how technology has helped us, specifically as a firm, in the last sort of couple of months. We've been in lockdown, enabling us to sort of interact with our clients, keep in touch with our teams, doing multinational sort of projects, etc. So I think technology is really something which is going to be even a more significant part of our lives going forward. Just before I go over to, I will sort of start off with a short demo video that will sort of show you the sort of key capabilities of Keystone. After that, I will sort of also do a live demo, just sort of going down into some more sort of detailed capabilities, make you see how the platform operates, etc. But just to keep in mind that sort of recently we polled around 250 CEOs and CFOs and audit committee chairs across the globe. And what came out sort of very strongly is they expect internal audit to be tech savvy and to leverage internal audit in everything that we do. And that is everything from electronic working paper solution, sort of the back office of internal audit, making that more efficient, to actually the way we conduct audits, from not physically going to have to visit each and every single site, but maybe logging on to the CCTV TV cameras, observing sort of on a more continuous basis any operation anywhere in the world, etc. And based on that feedback, KPMG globally went on a path where we developed our own sort of internal audit management platform, which is built on our risk-based proprietary internal audit methodology. And that was really sort of in sort of answer to that CEO and audit committee chair expectations to really have an end-to-end delivery platform, which is in a secure environment where you can interact with your auditees on a real-time basis. And as I go through the demo video, as well as through my demo, you will see these various places within Keystone where you can actually interact with our clients. We don't sort of longer email stuff around, etc. We rather use Keystone as that platform because it's in a secure environment. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to quickly start sharing my screen, and then I'm going to take you through a short demo video, as I said, after which I will then make sure that we sort of go into a little bit more detail of it.
We will be giving you a next generation internal audit experience with KPMG's innovative approach, our Keystone. Keystone is our in-house developed internal audit management software that increases the efficiency and effectiveness of the internal audit function into one content-rich and technically efficient platform that is forward-thinking. Keystone provides next-generation collaboration between auditees and internal auditors in a secure, real-time environment through interactive dashboards and custom reporting. Keystone is more than a data repository and working paper tool. Keystone is an end-to-end delivery platform that includes intelligent content and client-specific risk and control libraries that is continually updated. Keystone, our end-to-end internal audit delivery platform.
So that was just a sort of a high-level sort of intro demo on the key capabilities. And I think what you will see is, as I go through this very short demo, you will see that we sort of built Keystone on a couple of sort of fundamentals. And one of them was, one, it need to be secure. And especially in this day and age where data privacy, data security is so important, and the value of information is so important. I mean, we see how many companies get hold to ransom attacks, etc. So that was one of the key premises, was one, keep the data secure that's entrusted to us by our clients. And second of all is, when we give people access to our platform, make sure we give them we authenticate those users properly, etc. Another thing about Keystone is it was sort of built on, I call it the internal audit risk-based business model almost. So you will have your client, within your client, you will have then a sort of a central database where you sort of start creating all your internal audit plans. So as you can see here on this particular screen, we've got the internal audit plan for 2019, 2020, 2021, and even 2022. So in one single place, you've got all the years internal audit plans, all linked to a risk-based internal audit plan that's been approved. And Keystone actually takes you through that risk-based internal audit plan development phase. Once that audit plan is approved, you will then go into that specific engagement. You can see I'm on 2029, and it will take you through, again, sort of the risk-based methodology. You will then have your individual internal audit files, etc. And as you can see here, Keystone gives you a bird's eye view of these reviews on your audit plan. You can see there, some of them are in progress, the percentage complete. You can even see some of them has been completed, and it even gives you sort of a project rating for each one of these. It's actually very important to understand that to have all the years sort of internal audit information or audit projects in one central database gives you the benefit of then having a place where you can actually go and build up your own sort of process risk and control library for internal audit purposes. So you start creating a picture across your entire entity of what all the processes, risk and controls is, and you can leverage these across different sort of engagements and different projects or different years audit plans. So this really sort of brings a very efficient way of leveraging data. So if you've done a procurement audit at a particular location, next year you want to go and do the procurement audit again, you don't go and recreate the data. You basically go fetch it from your control database that has been copied from your last procurement audit, you roll it forward, but it actually takes you through a process where you sort of go and re-look at this and make sure that the risks and the control are still relevant and still up to date. So this is one of the key features of Keystone, is making sure we actually leverage data which you have gathered from prior periods, but then incorporate that with almost a forward-looking type of view to make sure you cover all the risks, the change in environment, etc. Again, as you go into each one of these audit plans, each one of these projects has got their own sort of electronic working paper file, which is fully automated. And as you go through it, it sort of guides you through the risk-based methodology, which is sort of required from internal auditors according to our internal audit standards. And it actually makes sure that you sort of follow due process in the sense that you sort of look at your control design, you assess your control design, and only when your control design is adequate, you then go forward and go physical sort of control effectiveness testing. And that all is done through this workflow within Keystone, and it makes sure that we actually follow the methodology. It then goes and creates your work program. You then have a full-on working paper solution where you then can sort of go and execute the test, you document your work that you've performed. And what you can also do is you then have the ability to go and attach all your supporting documentation and your evidence. And I think that's becoming increasingly important, is to have a way where we can sort of collect and manage our audit evidence in a more secure manner. And Keystone gives you that full-on electronic working paper solution. It also has a full-on review and approval capability with review notes, etc. And the system actually keeps tracks of all the reviews and approvals that has been done. If there's certain documents that hasn't been reviewed from a quality point of view, the system will sort of point that out for you. You have the ability to track your review notes, etc., etc. So you've got a full-on electronic working paper solution. And what's nice about Keystone is, because this is a cloud-based program, I work on multinational clients. I can sit in South Africa and I can really go and look and keep track of my teams and review in real-time basis the work that is done across the globe. Doesn't matter whether it's in Australia or the US or Europe, we all have got access to the same data and we work as one sort of central team. Keystone also have quite a bit of dashboard capabilities. And again, you can give your auditee access to these, and based on their role, they will then be able to see certain views of these dashboards. This is now an overview of the 2019 internal audit plan. It's a nice graphical representation of the progress. For me as a user, I have a shortcut to a dashboard of all my review notes across all my clients. All the tasks that's been allocated to me, I know exactly which audits is happening. And if I've got access to these audit files, I'm a team member on that audit file, I can just click on this link and it will take me directly back into my internal audit file, and I can sort of start working on those items. You even have a layer down capability on dashboard. So if you want to take the supply chain management, you can even go down at a project level. And this will now give you a snapshot just on this particular project. You can see your milestones, where you are at. again, show you your review notes, your team. It show you your work programs and work papers. And again, as you start drilling down, I can now go to this debit orders working paper. By clicking on it, it will open up that specific internal audit file and that specific document, and I can start working on it. You will also see that we've got quite a bit of reporting capability within Keystone, and that is actually also one of the strengths of Keystone is it allows you not only to run sort of predetermined static reports, but also it allows you to sort of go and design your own sort of custom-made internal audit template. And once you design it and upload it in Keystone, any one of the users can now go and select the engagement or the audit plan, which engagement, and start running the report, and everybody will generate their report in a single sort of format, and you will have consistency across your audit plan. And that is purely very helpful in instances where you have a large audit plan with up to 100 or more sort of internal audit projects, and you want that consistency from a quality point of view. Another key capability of Keystone, which our clients find really helpful, is the ability to, once you have completed your audit project or your audit file, you close it off, management has provided you with management actions on all the issues that you've identified, it goes into a central issue tracking database. And what's nice about this is, as soon as your audit file is closed off, the system automatically starts tracking all the issues and action plans for remediation as soon as the audit is closed. So you can see in this premiums and commissions review, you've got a procurement review. If you go into these issues, it will show you the action plans associated with each issue. And you can see this particular one has got 3 sort of action plans. One is to draft the policy, someone needs to review the policy, and then the policy needs to be implemented. You assign these to different action plan coordinators, which is business users or clients. And each one of these people will get a notification at a predetermined setting of when this action plan is due. The person can then log onto the system. They can then decide and mark what the status is. They can add in comments and supporting documentation. And once the item is resolved, internal audit picks it up and can review the documentation to go and verify that the action plan has been implemented appropriately. So again, full-on automation. You can even upload issues from other assurance providers. You don't have to only use Issue Tracker for internal audit issues. You can even upload external audit issues from a regulator, etc., and track it all in a central database. And with it comes quite a powerful reporting capability where you can actually generate reports from Issue Tracker. And again, you can give your auditees or your clients access to this Issue Tracker, and they can almost manage the issue tracking process autonomously via Keystone and generate their own reports, etc. There's also a sort of nice dashboard available. So again, if you go into your client, if you then go and load your dashboards, the client and yourself will also have access to a dashboard where you specifically go into Issue Tracker. And again, when you give your client or your auditees access to the system, they can have a real live snapshot of the status of these action plans. You can see we've got total issues in play, got 5 open issues, 6 open action plans. And as you start toggling through these items, you will have sort of the supporting detail at the bottom, which you can then download. You can configure your view, and you can even select any one of these items. So if you want to see, show me the high issues, you click on it, the system will refresh and it will give you sort of additional information on that. So again, we built Keystone on the premise that we want to be interactive with our clients from the very beginning, with auditees, etc., streamlining the process, and most of all, have it in a secure environment. And with that, I would sort of like to conclude my Keystone presentation, and I would sort of like to hand over now to Gustav, who will also take us through another exciting topic around regulatory compliance. Thank you, Gustav.
Thank you, Jaco. Yes, while we're just getting the slides ready on this one as well, if I can take you back to reality in South Africa, where we stand on the 30th of June is we have the buzzword COVID-19, which is a reality in our life. Now, this tool specifically deals with how to ensure that in returning to work, in other words, the requirements as we return to work, how exactly to ensure that we do comply with what we need to comply with. The important element is that as we move down the different levels of level 5, level 4 to level 3 now, we also need a move up on the importance of of application of compliance to what is required to us. So what this tool specifically does, it provides us with a summary of which we will see on the next slide, with a summary of the 10 different categories, or 2 slides on, of the 10 different categories where we have categorized everything that is required in terms of the Disaster Management Act. As you know, the Disaster Management Act is the boss of us all at this point in time, and the regulations in terms of that and the directions as it is called, we have categorized into 10 different groups. You see to the left in light blue, workplace plans, for instance. So we have captured that in 10 different categories. And then behind that, we have a total of just more than 70 questions. In other words, questions which reflects the legal requirements of what needs to happen. Now, the important point is that not a single client of ours came out on full score. There's a lot of assumptions around that if we have a workplace plan and we have a couple of stuff in there, then we are fine. We know that the Disaster Management Act criminalizes non-compliance. It makes it an offense, and it can close down. We can lose our licenses if we do not comply to the T. So this is the summary sheet. The summary sheet, and we'll go down in a whiz. Here is the workplace plans, and it's developed. The legal requirements are now put into questions, and you answer yes or no mostly. In some cases, there might be the opportunity of it's not applicable to us, but mostly it's yes or no. You see at the bottom 11 questions on workplace plans, and then the result of those answers would then come back to the assessment score at the top, which you see then being 44% on this one. That would then carry through to the summary. On the next slide, we'll see the summary, the 44% you see to the left there, and then the overall score is 86%. In other words, the legal requirements in terms of the regulations and the directions can be broken down into 10 categories with more than 70 specific sets of requirements, which we have rephrased into questions. If you answer those questions, it would give you a score per different section. So you know my workplace plan portion is rather terrible. I need to look at that. And my overall score to the right, you see, is 86%. Now, a lot of clients say, come on, I passed varsity with 50% and 75% would already be a distinction. Unfortunately, the requirement is 100%. So 80%, 86% in this example is not good enough as yet. It is just an indication that you're almost there, but that you need to refine and fine-tune some of the elements. Highlighted to your left, general measures, you see you're fine. Symptom screening and monitoring, you're fine. But the others, you see you're not that fine. This is also a great tool to have this is obviously for a specific operation or office or whatever, but it's a great tool. It is also a great tool to then manage the different operations and manage the different officers, etc. In other words, whoever takes responsibility would then get the screenshot to say, we are fine generally, that operation is on 100%, but that office is still on 86%, etc. And then we can ensure that we do comply. Without repeating myself, I think the important bit is that if we do not get to full score, and as I said, no single client of ours got to full score at this point in time, but if we do not get to full score, unfortunately, you do not comply with the Disaster Management Act, its regulations and its directions to the full, and therefore there can be intervention and your office can be closed down, etc. So as a management tool, this is a great IT-driven tool technology tool where you summarize the status of not only your office, your company, but also of different elements thereof, and therefore to use that as a management ensuring compliance in going forward. And I think that summarizes, this results dashboard summarizes the importance and the essence of what we do in having broken down the different requirements. Now, obviously, as the regulations change, we adjust this to make sure for the latest regulations, and we know that regulations and directions get changed overnight, and then it takes effect tomorrow. Obviously, we manage that and make sure that that's being updated, etc., to assist our clients to make sure that they do know what exactly need to comply with, and to give it to them back as a result on how they are doing in complying with that. So internal audit on the return to work, technology driven, is what this is all about. And that's then my portion thereof. Thank you, Granville, back to you.
Thank you, Gustav. Ryan, we are ready to take a couple of questions. I see there's about 15 minutes left. I just want to also say to the audience, if any of these tools have excited you, feel free to make contact with any of us. I'm sure our contact details, Ryan, will be with you if there's a need for any of the audience to make contact with the KPMG team. But let me give back to you, Ryan, and we're happy to answer any questions that the audience might have.
Fantastic. Thanks, gentlemen. I found that quite interesting. It's great to see technology being used and applied smartly to drive greater efficiency. One thing that perhaps didn't come across in your various presentations is, are there key risks associated with increased automation? Specifically within an internal audit function. You know, the notion that where you have a robot or some sort of automated system having access to pretty much every part of your business, does that expose your business to any undue risks, or are there any specific risks you'd like to highlight with respect to this move into higher automation?
Jaco, do you want to field that question?
Yep, I certainly can, Granville. I think there's two aspects to it. This one is sort of where you almost use robotics and sort of technology to sort of take over the sort of tasks that people do. And the second is sort of, how do you sort of make sure that the sort of the data and information you've got access to, how you sort of make that secure? And I think the latter one is sort of almost the easier one, in the sense that, specifically from a Keystone point of view, and I think from Aveen's technology as well, is we have put quite a bit of controls in place for ourselves. So, and I don't want to go into too much detail, because really that's a risk in itself, telling people what those measures are. But I mean, we sort of look at authentication of users, data encryption, data security. We make sure that whatever vendors we use for a cloud service, etc., is reputable vendors. We have right to audit clauses in. Keystone specifically goes through a SOC 2 Type 2 review every year by an external auditor. So we get that assurance, and also it's important for us to be able to give that assurance to our users. So listen, data security is there. We're looking at privacy, etc. Because at this day and age, we get entrusted with so much data, we cannot be other than sort of very, very careful about this. So that covers that. The first one is about sort of, is there any other risks? I think, again, when you look at sort of automation taking over certain tasks, I think you need to put the same controls in place to say that sort of source data or source sort of programming that is used to sort of make that robot do what it's supposed to do, make sure that that is secure. Because at the end of the day, you still need to sort of tell sort of that piece of technology what to actually do. So make sure that you sort of have controls around that to make that secure. Because if you sort of collect data in a biased way, you will always get a biased answer, for example. So, but from a KPMG point of view, we do have quite a bit of security measures in place, which is according to world standards, probably some of the most stringent. I hope that answers the question.
Yep, absolutely. I think that gives good peace of mind. A great question that's come through from Tendai. Thanks for that, Tendai. And he's asking, what aspects drive the decision around the technologies one uses, whether to go to the cloud route or not?
Aveen, will you field that question for us?
Yeah, sure, Glenn, I'll get to that. So I think ultimately it will be dependent on what you're trying to achieve. So for example, if you would like all your users to get access to one common platform, you'd like all your information to store in one place, you're looking from a cost perspective, you're looking from an accessibility perspective, and ultimately from an ease of use, then cloud is the way to go. Again, it will be very dependent on what you really want to do. So for example, if you take Keystone, Keystone sits in the cloud. It's designed purely for us to use across the globe. If you take our app store, it's also sitting in the cloud because it has the ability to absorb large data. So if you're working with big data, big technology, big information, then the cloud is definitely a way to go. It's also better from a cost-effective perspective. Given cloud capability that's available to us, the maintenance around support, structure, privacy, security, patch management is all handled by the cloud provider. So that also takes out costs from anybody that wants to use the cloud. If you're running basic analytics, so as I mentioned earlier, if you're running the frequent or the ad hoc type analytics, then there's no real need to go to cloud. That can be run on a desktop. It can be run where the data actually sits on a server in an office. The minute you start getting into real big data and you start doing or using advanced capability or technology, that's when the cloud becomes something to consider. But it will also come down to, well, cost. So if you're looking to save costs, if you're looking to have centralized usage, then cloud initially is not your idea, but it will always ultimately be what you're trying to do. And the decision for cloud will be more around latency, accessibility, ease of use, patch management, security.
Great stuff, thanks. Maybe just Gustav, from your perspective, any regulatory issues that anyone needs to be concerned with respect to this decision as to go into the cloud? I think, before the session we were talking about the fact that public sector data, for example, needs to be stored within the country. And we know that a lot of the cloud infrastructure sits in the States or in Europe or so on. Are there any specific regulatory aspects that people need to be aware of in this space?
Well, the answer to that is that there is no answer, in the sense that it's managed differently. You're absolutely right. In the public sector, we have serious and important constraints on ensuring that the information are kept more managed. Is the old version of that. I think things are changing. There's a lot of development in our public sector, in South African public sector, to make sure that going forward, things will be allowed to also be in the cloud, etc. So things are changing. It's just changing a little bit slower. Obviously, if we then go internationally, it unfortunately differs from country to country on how to manage that. In South Africa, however, where we are now, things are as per the Aveen and Jaco's contributions are managed quite neatly within the internal audit requirements. If it's either kept in another mechanism or in the cloud, I think we don't have any constraints on that. The only constraint in South Africa for now is the public sector. And that is changing, is my answer.
Fantastic. Thanks, Gustav. And I mean, of course, we know that there's some world leaders like Amazon who are working to develop local data centers as well. So very soon, I think we'll be past that issue. Thanks for that. Maybe just to change lanes a little bit. I mean, we're seeing globally a shift into automation with the use of robotics and so on. And naturally, for a country like South Africa, where we need to create jobs, that is somewhat of a concern, right? That we're going to have job losses as we all move into automation. But with respect to automated internal audit, what are the implications from a tertiary education or even talent pipeline perspective? It's audit and this profession has got quite a established method of developing talent pipeline and sort of bringing those people into the profession. As we move increasingly into an automated space, what are the implications for that talent pipeline? Do we just keep doing things the way we've always done it? And what percentage, I suppose it's a double-barreled question, but what percentage of current internal audit workforce tasks do you then think will be automated in the future?
Vin, do you want to fill that? And I will add once you're done.
So I'll add that. Yeah, sure. So I think maybe we talk with the bottom parts. So generally what we see is that, or what we'd like to see is 25 to 50% of the audit cycle can be automated. I mean, quite comfortably, it's quite easy to do that. So whether it's running tests, generating reports, I think the drive will be that in a typical audit plan, you'd want to see at least 50% automated. So that's maybe the first answer. I think, Ryan, to the bigger point is that as much as we will automate, so if you take for us, for example, we run bots. So we run a number of bots. We drop a bot into an environment, or our team uses our app store. The one part that doesn't ever change is that someone needs to interpret the results. So as much as we may be taking a massive drive towards automating the way we audit, internal audit, using bots, etc., the people element in my mind becomes actually more important. So for me, people, I don't think are going to lose their jobs anytime soon. I think the talent needs to be regroomed. So now our talent needs to focus, yes, on the generic internal audit requirements of the profession, but they need to be programmers. So back in the day, programmers would be programmers, and we left them in a little dark corner in the office. Now, almost every internal auditor that goes to the field must have a basic to intermediate capability in running analytics. They must understand data. They must have skill around, well, how do they interpret quality of data? How do they interpret privacy requirements around data, retention around requirements? And so from a tertiary education perspective, I think the university's courses need to be updated to include requirements around analytics. It's not just about pressing buttons. It's about, if you don't understand the data, you don't understand the structure of the data, you don't understand the environment in which the data is housed as a client, you can't really audit. The same with the bot. So as much as we've got a store where you literally configure a bot, click a button and it runs an audit, you will need to understand the underlying data. You'll need to understand where to get the data. And you'll also need to understand how you need to clean the data. So as much as we can run a bot, if you have bad data, you can do nothing with it. I don't know, Granville, do you want to jump in there and maybe add?
Yeah, Vin, I just wanted to add that, Ryan, I think it's important that you find a balance between the relevance and the technology, the development of the technology. I remember when I started my career, in fact, we still had a pool of typists typing out the reports, that you handwritten. Today you sit behind your laptop and you send the email. Now, the reality is the technology forces us to be relevant. My view is that you will always require the internal audit function, but I'm also equally convinced that the techniques and the way you're going to perform internal audits in the future will be vastly different to the way we do it even today. So I think we need to find that balance between being relevant. How do we make sure that we train our students to be auditors of the future? I think that's going to be the challenge for all of us.
Fantastic. Yeah, thanks for that, guys. I mean, it's actually quite interesting. We are finding that the world is moving at a pace that universities are struggling to keep pace with. And so we are working quite closely with our regional universities to make sure that they produce the kind of talent that your profession would like to see coming through. And as Rin has alluded to, there's definitely some tweaks, not an entire change, but some tweaks to the skills that are being taught to learners and people in that profession going forward. And so it becomes very important for business universities to work very closely to make sure that we do produce the kind of talent going forward. We've got a question coming through from Marvin, and I see we've got a few minutes, so maybe we can still take this one. And Marvin is asking, what courses are available for internal auditors to upskill and come to terms with technology in audit? So I guess his question is about existing internal audits who now would like to upskill and be more relevant in the future.
So Ryan, I cannot comment on what is available externally, but within KPMG, we obviously making sure that we equip our staff with the relevant latest technology tools and techniques. And Mervyn is certainly welcome to make direct contact with us for anything specific. But we invest a lot of time in training our staff on data analytics, robotics, etc. Unfortunately, I cannot comment on what is externally available. I'm sure some of the universities are starting to realize that they need to enhance their curriculums with this element, but I'm not in a position to comment on that.
So I'm assuming, Granville, that the technology that we've seen today and systems you've shown us, this is bespoke KPMG, IP, and the internal systems, and not as commonplace in the broader market.
That is correct, Ryan. However, saying that, obviously, when we engage with our client base, there's different models at play. So, for example, in some cases, we would co-source an internal audit solution to a client, meaning that we partner with the client's own team, and in that case, we will obviously share the technology, the IP, etc., with the respective clients. But yes, generally, what we showed you today will be bespoke KPMG tools and solutions.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, on that note, it looks like we have rapidly run out of time. We only have about a minute left. Maybe one quick question we can squeeze in while we still have a minute, and we still have about quite a nice audience listening. Independence and objectivity are generally considered cornerstones of internal audit profession. Will increased automation improve that, as it certainly appears on face value? Or are there risks associated with programming bias and so on that might creep in? So I guess the question is, does the technology improve independence and objectivity, or does it introduce a new risk?
So Ryan, maybe I will also feel that one. The way I will look at it is that independence and objectivity is state of mind, you know, and wherever you have interpretation, human interpretation, you may become not independent, or you may become subjective depending on the interaction that you have. Simple example, the client may say to you, I don't want you to report that finding. If you do that, then you may lose the contract. Now, the human will react in a certain way to that challenge. Whereas, if you think about it, the robot will just be factual. There will be no emotion displayed, and therefore, in that example, I think independence and objectivity will be improved. However, saying that, Jaco made a point earlier, you know, if you set up the robot in a biased way, you will get a biased answer. So it really will depend also on that. So there's positives to it, but there's also negatives. The positives, I guess, is that the robot will not be emotive. I think the negative is that you can influence how the robot is set up in order to get to a certain result, which may be a negative. I hope that answers your question.
Yep, I think that's a great point to end on also, is that, you know, at the end of the day, ultimately, it's us as humans who are in control of the technology and who need to steer that technology in a positive direction in order to have a positive outcome. The technology on its own is certainly not going to take over the world and do nasty things. Ultimately, it comes down to humans and how we use that tool to make our lives easier and more efficient. So on that note, Granville, Jaco, Aveen, Gustav, thank you very much for your insights this morning and for your contributions. I think it was a really interesting discussion and one that I certainly enjoyed. Massive thanks as always to KPMG for your support of the series. And last but certainly not least, to the audience and everyone who's checked in this morning and spent this hour with us. Thank you very much for your time, your interaction, your great questions. And we look forward to hosting you all at the next one. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great day.